How's it going, guys? So I know I promised more content to come, and here it is. Tonight we're working on the Nova, and it's appropriate because even though it's getting a little bit dark out here, we got just the thing right over here. I got these off of Amazon Prime, baby, even though these weren't Prime, but that's beside the point. Get you a better look here. So these are from a company called Octane Lighting. They seemed like they had the better reviews of I will admit, kind of the cheaper end of what you would find for headlights like this. And what kind of headlights are these, you ask? Well, these are halo headlights. You can see here that has what's called an SMD LED ring, which, yeah, long story short, it's kind of like a rope light kind of LEDs versus like a bunch of little bulbs all the way around. It kind of blends them together, so it's a little bit more of a smoother look. And it's pretty cool. LEDs hardly draw any power, so you can leave these on at car shows and such if you like, or if you're just chilling with your friends, you can kind of look cool in the parking lot, at a meet or whatever. And I thought I'd try them out. I need to do an upgrade to my lighting anyway, and that's also what these provide. If you look on the inside here, it has what's known as an H4 bulb, which is your typical modern-day halogen bulb, but it still has the same footprint and overall housing size as well as connector style. Now, this is with the weatherproofing boot off of it, but same connector style as my stock headlights here. The typical three-prong style. Now, as you can see, my connectors are as ancient as the rest of the car, but pretty much that's what we're looking at here. And these should more or less be pretty plug and play. I will have to obviously wiring in some switch action for the halo rings themselves, but it shouldn't be too hard. They're both just positive and ground, and the wiring is surprisingly decent looking. I was expecting these to be on the even cheaper side than they are, and these really weren't expensive. This is less than $100 shipped for both of these. I did have a little bit of a hiccup moment where one of the reflectors, I can't remember, I think it's this one because I had the boot off, because I was just fixing it. The reflector on this one, when I first opened the package, was actually bent. It's got the little support it's just like a strip of metal, and it was bent. If you're looking at it here, it was like that. It was a good 15 or 20 degree angle out of center, and I panicked a little bit. I was like, well, I'll try to bend it back, and if it breaks, hopefully Octane Lighting will do good for me and help me out with that if something goes wrong, because it shouldn't have arrived like that. But thankfully, it seems like it's at least good enough quality to where it didn't break. I was able to recenter it just fine. Now, gonna get to work popping out the old headlights, which is really easy. It's literally just like 3 screws to hold the trim ring in, which, apparently is coming loose on me. So it's a good time to do this anyway. Probably should check the other one. Now we're good to go there. Well, I'm just gonna take off the trim ring, and then there's the actual retaining ring, this part, which it's kind of like trim also, but it's not quite the same. This is what actually holds the bulb itself in. I'm going to start on the driver's side here, see how that goes, and then move on to the passenger side. Now this is interesting because I'm thinking this is barely going to fit through this hole in general, let alone with that extra piece of wiring through there. So I doubt I'm going to be able to get it through there. I might have to break out the drill. Alright, so after several minutes of kind of feeling things around and seeing how things fit, I also had to repair one of the ground wires here for the connector, but it's alright. I have determined that while the back of the housing here will indeed fit through the headlight bucket itself, this first part here, sorry, all this is tangled together. Although the light fits through this first part, it will not fit through the second part, mostly because it's not really lined up. As you can see, it's kind of offset a little bit. So I'm gonna have to look at maybe how I can either move this bucket around, which I don't really see any way to do, or possibly trim it. I'm not sure if I have the right tools on hand for that. That's kind of the problem. but we'll see what I can make happen here. All right, so you can kind of see I've got a bit of a solution here. You gotta love old American pig iron or pot metal, which is basically what this piece is apparently. I was able to just grab it and just yank it with some channel locks. It was actually quite easy, and it's actually how I kind of rolled the lip of my fenders as well, coincidentally. So you can kind of get an idea of what I'm working here with clearance. I'm actually almost there. I just need a little bit more on the bottom there. The top isn't really too bad. It's mostly the bottom. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep yanking on it and see how far I can get it. All right, so you might notice this is not the new headlight. This is the old one back on. So I ran into a problem where this sort of flange on the edge of the headlight is probably at least a 1/4 inch, if not thicker. Well, thicker than the old one. It's by at least a 1/4 inch, if not more. And what that does is this retaining ring here, there's not enough, well, there's just not enough meat on the bone here. This is meant to sit flush with this size bulb, and even, you know, dreaming of trying to get the new bulbs in there with this regular setup just isn't working, and it actually broke one of the ears off here on the top. It's just the tiniest little like spot weld. It's almost like a solder. It's really actually, it was barely attached anyway, but that's supposed to go up there and it's not attached anymore. So at least I did figure out a few things. I know what to do for the other side, which I haven't even started yet, but for now I'm going to have to get probably a new ring, maybe 2 new rings just in case, and probably get some hardware and figure out how to space it out, maybe with some washers and such. Part of that will also actually entail taking off the grill, because the last bolt for the retaining ring, as you can see, is actually behind the bracket for the grill here, and that'll be next. So we're gonna kind of fast forward probably a few days here when I get all that figured out. All right, so here we are about almost a week later, and I had a few struggles since then, one of which the new retaining rings actually came in a little earlier than I thought, and luckily they are actually a little bit bigger than I anticipated, and you can see here they are much deeper than the originals. The originals were probably at least a 1/4 of an inch to maybe more thinner or shallower, I guess you could say, than these. And these do indeed fit around the lights. As you can see, I've got one installed here. It's actually a little bit loose. As you can see, basically all I need is kind of a piece of rubber probably in there. I don't currently have the kind of the weatherproofing cap on the back yet, so I'm gonna figure out if that might be enough to get it to sit in there nice and snug, and I think it just might be. I just need to kind of pull some more of the metal out here. But the problem that I did have, though, is, as you may have glanced here, when I was putting that one headlight in, this one fell on the ground and it broke. But at least now I know that they do indeed have real glass lenses and not plastic, as I was concerned because of some of the reviews mentioned that they thought it was supposed to have glass lenses and it came with plastic, and I was like, okay, hopefully mine actually have glass lenses, and they do. So I had to wait until the new headlight showed up, and it just did today. So I'm gonna go ahead and start ripping into this again, try and get it going here. Here I can show you a bit more of a better comparison. This is the old retaining ring. So you can see that's, you know, that thick. This is this thick. And as you can see, that's a substantial difference. And really that is really what's gonna make this possible here. The only issue with these is, well, hang on one second, let me take the bezel off so I can really show you. All right, so you can see this new ring has the retaining tabs here, or the mounting tabs, and this is the old ring. Now, originally this ring was oriented like this, and it had 3 tabs, 2 toward the bottom kinda, and then 1 up high, and 1 for each of the mounting screws. You can see that one lines up with this one down here just behind the grill there. It's kind of hiding. And then there's one up at the top here as well. Now the new rings show you on this one. They have 3 tabs as well, but they don't quite line up the same. So we have 1, 2, 3, and they're pretty much all equidistant there. It's like an equilateral triangle there. Turns out the original ring wasn't quite the same. If I line this tab up here, you see this one doesn't line up here. And then the original spot weld for the original tab is a little bit off on here also. So it's interesting because I'm not totally sure what year my front end is from, and I'm not sure if these headlight buckets are original to my car. I know there's some year differences in these rings when I was ordering them. Apparently this might be one of them where it's not quite the same with the tabs. It's kind of oh well. Basically these 2 bottom tabs are slightly up higher than like perfectly equidistant, or one of them is slightly off from that. I don't really know why, because it doesn't really make a difference over here, but whatever. Right now I have it in with just those 2 tabs, and eventually it's going to be, this tab is going to be behind the grill. Just right now it's in front. You're just going to move it back. And honestly, this thing isn't going anywhere. That's really the least of my concerns, so that's fine. I'll just have to get the headlight to sit nice and even, and then we'll be ready to rock basically. Now, immediate next step from here, because like I said, I've got this clearance pretty well. It's just going to be some massaging for the boot to fit. It's going to be this other side, and as you can see, it is kind of behind the battery, so I'm going to have to take the battery out. Alright, now I have replaced these headlights before. For some reason I didn't remember that this one actually has, it had 2 screws actually holding it in, and then there was actually, instead of a 3rd screw, it's actually a little spring, if you can see in there. It's kind of got like a hook on it. And that's interesting, and I'm not sure if they're all supposed to have that or just the one or what have you. But yeah, and it also shows you that this car has had an interesting history. I'm not sure why there's red paint on here, because this is the only red paint on the entire car. I know that these fenders and front end, I think, were black at one time. There's a lot of black underneath this, and as well as the hood and such on the front end. The rest of the car is avocado green, which I've showed in past videos, but I'm not sure why this headlight bucket is red. The other one is definitely just silver and nothing else has paint on it. So I know this front end's kind of cobbled together from God knows how many cars, but yeah, just interesting to see the history of a car that's 47 years old. Just it just has a lot more to show you the deeper and deeper you dive into it. All right, that little hook just did not want to give up the goose there, but I got it. It's you see it's back there, and it is integral to this bucket, which does look slightly different from the other one. So you can see it holds that corner, otherwise the whole thing kind of just pops around. It also holds it tight so that the adjuster screws can actually adjust anything. So I will have to put that back on, but it was hooked to the old ring, which is why I had to get it off. But I should be able to make it work with the new ring. As long as I have a couple points to get it to mount up to, everything should be good. Should being the key word here. So hopefully it works out. Alright, after some test fitting and such, I pulled the hook of the spring back out just to hold this in place while I kind of mess with this and see if I might be able to use that. The tabs don't actually line up with the bolt holes. Again, I'm not sure what kind of a combination of parts this front end really is, but I think I have a way where if I line it up with this upper bolt hole here, then I can actually use the, if you could see, once the other side's actually lined up properly, I can actually use the hook to probably hold it down against the bucket and then hold the whole thing in from the bottom, and then I'll have a bolt at the top, and then just like the other one, it seems like it should be sturdy enough to where I shouldn't really have any worries. So I'll come back to that. In the meantime, I'm going to clearance this out for the new light. So I'm attempting to be proactive here, and I'm actually going to use the broken light to test fit everything, being careful of any of the glass edges, of course. Just so that in case, you know, worst comes to worst and I drop this, it's already broken, so I'm not really feeling that cut up about it. And I've got my work cut out for me, that's for sure, because just like the other side, this bucket seems to be, if I line it up straight, more or less like that, I will have to, if you can see, clearance more from the bottom than the top. So it'll likely end up very similar to the other side, except that the other side, if you notice, the headlight bucket is cut out wider than this one. As you can see, that one kind of goes all the way down and right up to where the bulb actually comes through. And actually, you can see just back here where the wire's coming through that little bottom hole, it actually fits the new bulb pretty nicely, so I was able to kind of use that as a template. But this side I won't be able to as much, so this is going to be a little interesting, but I'm just kind of have to freehand it and just shape it as I go. Alright, so I got everything buttoned up on the bulbs, and I actually did some preliminary wiring. This is temporary, mind you. This is just kind of electrical taped together neatly. This is just a kind of proof of concept sort of a deal. Just running some wires over here and got some splices going, which actually came out fairly neat, I'm not gonna lie. But the piece de resistance is my switch here, so to speak. I actually got this because this is supposed to go on the, normally goes on the negative terminal, yes. This is a battery disconnect, the terminal disconnect. It's not really a switch per se, but it's like a, you know, whatever you want to call it. And basically what it does is when you loosen it, it isolates the post from whatever is attached to the other end here. As you can see, it's loose here, and you can tighten it. And right now I just have, like I said, this is all just electrical tape on there. And this is actually really cool because right now I don't have a switch that really works in the rest of the car for now. That's gonna be the next thing. Once I get that all finalized, then I can actually permanently wire this stuff in. This is just to make sure everything works and there's no surprises. Basically, I tighten this down, and I got halos, people. There it is. That is the new face of the Nova. Almost. I am gonna see if I can get the angry eyes to work there as well. I'm gonna drive around a bit without them initially, just to get a feel for it. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but these are, it looks a little whiter in the video. This is green, so it's, just imagine something, if you see my Instagram post, it looks a lot more like what it does in real life, if you follow me there. If not, there you go. And I'm super excited. I'm just gonna kind of zip tie some of these wires up just to make sure things aren't gonna be flapping around while I'm driving around the next few days. Like I said, this is just sort of a really rudimentary, just to make sure everything works without any problems, kind of a deal. And I'm of course going to do this all for real. Maybe I'll show that in a future video. But yeah, for now, there she is. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for sticking with me through several issues that I had. I didn't show them all. I never show them all. Trust me, there's a lot more than I really let on sometimes in terms of the stuff that goes wrong. But it really makes it difficult to kind of make a video that's interesting and all that. But got them in, got them working, got them. Honestly, I'm pretty happy. I already tested the bulbs out. They seem fine. The connectors I'm gonna have to replace on the stock harness because they're not working 100%. They're kind of wiggly and they kind of, you know, they don't connect super well. But that'll be, again, when I wire everything permanently. I'll probably get some new connectors and wire in some pigtails and all that to keep everything nice and fresh. But once again, thank you very much for watching. Until the next time.